Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we talk about things like business negotiations or legal contracts and productivity hacks, it can be a little dry.
It can be. It's a lot of spreadsheets and way too much caffeine.
Exactly. But today we are going to talk about all of that. We're talking money, contracts, career strategy, but we are adding a variable that I guarantee you will not find in any MBA program.
Oh, it's definitely not in the standard curriculum, not even close.
I want you to just picture a specific scenario for a second. You're a writer, you've been working away, maybe in obscurity for years, and then finally you get the letter. A big-time New York publisher wants your book.
That's the dream, right?
This is the dream. But then the contract arrives, and you sit down to read it, and your stomach just drops. The money is okay, but it's not great. The clauses feel really restrictive.
You feel small.
Yes, you feel small, you feel like the underdog, and you have no idea if you should just sign it and get your foot in the door, or if you should fight for your worth and risk blowing the whole deal.
It's that classic creative dilemma, isn't it? Do you take the bird in the hand or, hold out for the two in the bush?
Right. No, in this situation, a normal person, they call a lawyer. Maybe they call their agent if they have one.
Or they call their mom to cry about it.
That too. Those are the standard options for sure.
Absolutely.
But what if instead of calling a lawyer, you sat down at your kitchen table, you dimmed the lights, you went into a dissociative trance, and you asked a disembodied personality named Seth to review the legal clauses for you?
And that is exactly the case study we are looking at today. It's wild.
It is so wild. We are diving deep into the archives of the Seth Material today. Specifically, we are looking at session 156 of the Early Sessions, Book 4.
And this session was recorded on May 17th, 1965. It's just this fascinating snapshot in time.
It really is. And before we get into the ghostly legal advice, we have to give a huge mandatory shout out to the people who make this all possible.
We do. The New Awareness Network, they are the publishers and the, custodians of these incredible archives.
Absolutely. If you find what we're about to talk about today interesting, and I think you will, you really owe it to yourself to go to the source. We're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, completely. We're just giving you a taste.
And we also need to make a very clear declaration right up front, because we're going to be talking about legal contracts, medical symptoms, financial advice, all given by a spirit guide. So this podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
We are absolutely here to learn and explore, not to give you legal or medical advice. Please consult a human lawyer if you have a contract dispute.
Yes, please do. So the mission for today is to really unpack how Jane Roberts, who Seth refers to as Ruburt, and her husband Robert Butts, who Seth calls Joseph, navigated the super high-stakes world of publishing with a spirit guide as their primary consultant.
It's this incredible story about the intersection of practical reality, cold hard cash, signatures, train schedules, and metaphysical reality.
Intuition, energy fields, the subconscious, all of it.
Yep, all of it.
So let's dive right into part one, the contract and the pendulum. Because the visual here, it's just sticking with me.
It is a great visual, isn't it?
So set the context for us. Jane has a contract from a publisher. His name is Frederick Fell.
Right, Frederick Fell. And he wants to publish her book on ESP, extrasensory perception.
Which is just incredibly meta. I mean, she is literally using ESP to decide how to publish a book about ESP.
It's very circular. And you have to understand, Jane is conflicted. The source material tells us she has been debating this for days and days.
Just agonizing over it.
Totally. She likes the offer, but she hates some of the terms. She's just oscillating. And when you're that stressed, your logical mind just spins out. You can't think clearly at all.
So she decides to bypass the logical mind entirely. She uses the technique.
The pendulum.
Now, for anyone listening who thinks a pendulum is just something from a horror movie or a magic trick, can you explain what they were actually doing?
Sure. The pendulum is a classic tool, really, for accessing the subconscious mind. It operates on this principle called the ideomotor response.
Ideomotor, okay.
Yeah. Basically, you hold a weight on a string. You keep your hand as steady as you possibly can. You ask a simple yes or no question.
And the ghost moves the weight. Is that the idea?
Well, in Seth's philosophy, and in a lot of parapsychology, actually, it's not necessarily a ghost moving it. It's you. It's your own subconscious knowing.
Ah.
Your subconscious makes these tiny, microscopic movements in your fingers that you aren't consciously aware of. Those little tremors travel down the string and they get amplified by the weight at the end.
So it's just a way of letting your gut instinct speak without your anxious brain getting in the way and overthinking everything.
Exactly that. It's a bypass mechanism for the ego.
So Jane is sitting there, stressed out of her mind, swinging this little weight over a legal contract. Should I sign this? And what happens?
The pendulum swings. Yes. Sign it. Sign it as it stands.
And then Rob, her husband, he's usually the skeptic in the relationship, right? He wants to be sure.
He is. He's very methodical. So he gets his own pendulum. He asks the same questions.
Yep.
And he gets the exact same answer.
Wow.
Sign the contract. Don't fight it.
I love the humor in this. I mean, you can just imagine a boardroom in Manhattan,
Yeah.
right? All suits and ties and cigarette smoke. And then you cut to this couple in Elmira, New York, deciding the fate of the whole deal by swinging a washer on a string in their living room.
It sounds completely absurd to the modern business mind. It really does. But for them, this was a trusted tool. However.
There's a however.
Yeah, even with the pendulum saying yes, they were still nervous.
Yeah.
A swinging weight is one thing. A comprehensive strategic analysis is another.
Right. They needed the senior partner to weigh in.
Enter Seth.
Jane dissociates, she enters a trance, and Seth comes through. And he doesn't speak in riddles. He doesn't say, the owl flies at midnight or something.
No, he gets right down to business.
Right away. And he immediately validates the pendulum. He says, and I'm quoting the session here, "The relationship with Frederick Fell will be a good one. The caution can later work to Rubert's advantage."
Such a specific phrase. The caution can work to her advantage.
It is. And this brings us right to part 2, Seth's analysis of the publisher.
This is where Seth, he puts on his psychologist hat. Or maybe his HR director hat. It's hard to tell.
It's incredible. I mean, he has never met Frederick Fell. Jane has never met him. But Seth profiles this guy like he's been his therapist for a decade.
He does. Seth describes the publisher as having this very specific personality conflict. He says Fell is a mix of caution and impulsiveness.
Caution and impulsiveness, those feel like they're complete opposites.
They are. But humans are walking contradictions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Seth points to the evidence. The impulsiveness is shown by the fact that Fell forwarded money to Jane early.
Oh, right. He paid in advance.
He paid in advance based purely on a belief in Ruburt. He liked her letter. He liked the concept. He just made a gut decision to bet on this completely unknown author.
So he's got a bit of a gambler streak. He's impulsive enough to cut a check for a book on ESP in 1965. That's a bold move.
It's a very bold move. But then the caution kicks in. And where does the caution show up?
In the contract.
In the contract. The legal document is his safety blanket.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's impulsive enough to do the deal, but then he gets cautious enough to lock it down with really restrictive clauses because he knows deep down he's taking a big risk.
So Seth sees this duality, and here is where the strategy gets really, really interesting. I like to call this the underdog advantage.
Walk us through it.
So Seth he openly admits that Jane could get better terms right now if she fought for them. He says, and this is a direct quote, "Undoubtedly Ruburt could receive better clauses if he pressed for them."
And that is such a key point. The pendulum didn't say, this is the best contract you could possibly get. It said, signing this is the best move. There's a difference.
Right. A huge difference.
Yeah.
Seth argues that Jane is currently an unknown quantity. She is the underdog. She has absolutely no leverage.
So if she fights now, she just confirms his caution. She becomes difficult. She becomes a risk.
Exactly. And so Seth advises her to sign the lesser contract. Just let the publisher feel safe. Let him feel like he won the negotiation.
Why? I mean, that seems counterintuitive.
Because Seth predicts the book will be a success. He guarantees it. And he says, and you have to listen to this logic, he says, because this contract is less than Ruburt could press for, the next contract will be a much better one, since the publisher will then feel rather embarrassed concerning this contract.
Wow. That's Machiavellian brilliance.
It really is. It's like 4D chess.
He is literally weaponizing the publisher's future embarrassment.
He's banking on the publisher's conscience. Seth is effectively saying, let him underpay you now, be the nice, cooperative, easy-to-work-with author. Then when he makes a pile of money off of you, he will look at the ledger and feel guilty. And that guilt will translate directly into a massive check for the next book.
It's losing the battle to win the war.
It's such a sophisticated long-term take. You expect a spirit guide to say something like, money is an illusion, just share your light with the world.
Right.
But Seth is like, no, play the psychology, leverage his guilt for a bigger payday later.
Seth is so practical. He understands that business is about relationships. He even says it, The relationship with Frederick Fell will be a good one. He is prioritizing the long-term relationship over the short-term cash grab.
And he also notes that the most important battle, that one was actually already won.
The option clause.
Right, Seth says. The most important clause, the option clause, has been settled in Rubert's favor.
And this likely means that Jane retained the rights to her next book, or at least the freedom to write what she wanted. For them, creative freedom was way more valuable than a few extra percentage points on royalties for a debut book.
So the advice is simple. Sign the papers and bank on your own future success.
It requires a lot of confidence, though. You have to know you're going to succeed to play that kind of long game.
And Seth clearly knows. Now, speaking of bad ideas, Jane and Rob were also thinking about taking a trip to New York City to meet this publisher face-to-face.
Right. They wanted the victory lap, the celebration.
Who wouldn't? You get a book deal, you want to go to Manhattan, have the martini lunch, see the skyline. It's all part of the author fantasy, isn't it?
Of course. But the pendulum said no, and Seth said absolutely not.
Which brings us to part 3, the no New York rule and the preservation of energy. Why was Seth so against a little business trip? It seems harmless.
It all comes down to what you could call energy economics. Seth argues that a trip right now would generate, and this is his phrase, mental and psychic strains.
Strains, what does he mean by that?
Well, just think about the stress of travel. The packing, the train, finding a hotel, and then the social anxiety of meeting a publisher who we already know is cautious.
You have to perform. You have to be charming. You have to impress.
It's draining. It's a huge energy expenditure. And Seth points out the one thing Jane was conveniently ignoring.
The manuscript isn't finished yet.
Minor detail. The book isn't written.
Right.
Seth is adamant that the quality of the book is the single most important thing. He says, Rubert's concern should be with his manuscript. The added worries involved are not now worth the mental and psychic strains that they would cause. This could reflect in the book itself.
Reflect in the book itself. That is such a heavy concept.
It is. It really is.
He's suggesting that if the author is anxious or stressed or depleted, that energy is literally imprinted into the text, like the reader can feel it.
Yes, that's exactly it. Seth views the book not just as words on a page, but as an energy construct, a living thing in a way.
Right.
If you write while you are depleted, the reader feels that depletion. If you write while you are, quote, carried along by natural energies, the reader feels that vitality.
So he's prioritizing creative powers over a money difference.
Exactly, he says. In the overall, the money difference will not be great enough to tip the scales. Meaning, look, even if going to New York convinced Fell to give her an extra $500, if the book is 5% worse because she's exhausted and stressed, it's a bad trade. A really bad trade.
It's a profound lesson in focus, isn't it? We always think we need to be doing more networking, traveling, meeting people, shaking hands.
The hustle culture.
Right, and Seth is saying, no, sit down, write the book, protect your energy.
It's about recognizing that your psychic energy is a finite resource. You can spend it on travel anxiety and social performance, or you can spend it on creating a masterpiece. But you can't do both simultaneously.
Which leads us perfectly into part 4, work habits for the psychic writer. Because Seth doesn't just say stay home, he tells her exactly how to structure her day to protect that energy.
Yeah, he essentially acts as her productivity coach. It's amazing.
He lays out a very specific schedule, he says. This endeavor, the book, should be carried on now unceasingly, with periods of complete relaxation or change weekends.
So, intensive work during the week, total break on weekends. It's pretty modern advice, actually.
The classic work-life balance. Even spirits believe in the weekend.
It seems so. But he's very strict about the intensive part. And he has a very, very strict vacation policy.
Oh, yes. The no fun allowed policy.
But he says, there should be no vacation unless Ruburt takes the manuscript with him and works upon it.
Oof. A working vacation? That sounds less like a spirit guide and more like a demanding boss from, a tech startup.
But listen to his reasoning. He says, his natural energies will carry him along here, and these energies will be reflected and caught in the book itself.
There's that idea again, energy being caught in the object, like a battery.
He wants her to ride the momentum. She's in the flow state. If she stops now for a pure do-nothing vacation, she breaks that energetic thread. Then she has to work twice as hard to get back into that creative headspace. He wants the book to be infused with that high-frequency momentum.
It's like curing concrete. You can't just stop in the middle and come back 2 weeks later. It has to set properly. The whole process matters.
That's a great analogy. Exactly.
Now, speaking of the physical reality of writing and all this stress, There is a moment in the session that is actually kind of concerning.
The physical toll. It's a bit jarring when you read it.
It is. In the middle of the transcript, Rob notes that Jane begins to cough.
And it's not just a little throat tickle. It's a persistent cough. She actually has to come out of the trance, which is very, very rare for her.
She has to stop, drink water, maybe juice. The session is interrupted.
And when Seth comes back, does he blame a virus? Does he blame the drafty room or allergies?
No, of course not. He blames the contract.
Of course he does.
He says her energies are depleted from worrying about this piece of paper. He says, and this is another quote, Ruburt has used much energy in worrying about the contract in general. For this reason, I am holding a rather short session.
That is just fascinating. The mental worry about a legal document manifested as a physical coughing fit during a deep trance state.
It just shows how deeply interconnected the mind and body are in Seth's view. The mental strain he warned about with the New York trip.
It was already happening.
It was already happening. Her body was physically rejecting the stress. It was literally trying to cough it out.
So Seth essentially prescribes a medical intervention. But it's not pills or medicine.
It's nature.
It's nature.
He prescribes a walk to the river.
It's so simple. Seth suggests returning to a definite scheduled psychological time habit. And specifically, he endorses Rob's idea of having suppers by the river.
He says, the walk to the river is an excellent idea for you both. You will both find it effective and refreshing.
It's about grounding.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. They're dealing with this high-level intellectual work, psychic channeling, and stressful business negotiations.
They need to touch grass, as they say.
Literally. They need to see the water flow. They need to get out of their heads and back into their bodies.
It's such wholesome advice, though. Sign the contract, don't go to the city, work hard, and go have a picnic by the river. It sounds like advice from a grandparent.
It works, though. It's a holistic approach.
Yep.
You can't operate at a high psychic level if your physical vessel is depleted and wrecked by stress.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. We've covered business, we've covered health. Now I want to get to the part of the session that actually gave me a little chill.
Oh, yeah.
Part 5. The mechanics of precognition.
This is where we get into the really deep theory, the mind-bending stuff.
So the context here is that Jane and Rob had been running an experiment on themselves. They were making daily predictions, just short 3 or 4 word phrases, and then checking them against the next day's events.
Just trying to test their clairvoyance, see if they could get it to work on demand.
Right. And they were using the pendulum again to verify these predictions. But they were hitting a wall. The pendulum, their subconscious would say, yes, that prediction was valid, but their conscious minds couldn't see the connection at all.
They were just confused. They'd predict something like blue hat. The pendulum says, yes, that happened. But Rob is sitting there saying, I didn't see a blue hat all day. What are you talking about?
So they ask Seth, what gives? Are we just bad at this? Is the pendulum broken?
And Seth gives this incredibly expansive, almost cosmic explanation of the unknown. He drops a quote that, if you really think about it, completely changes how you view reality.
He says, clairvoyant material comes constantly. Some of it is used and acted upon. Other portions are discarded.
Constantly. That's the word that gets you.
That is the chilling part. He's not saying we are psychic sometimes when we try really hard. He's saying we are receiving future information constantly. It's a fire hose of data 24/7.
We are swimming in it. We're drenched in it. But our conscious mind acts as a filter, a very aggressive filter.
Why? Why do we filter it out?
Because if you were consciously aware of every future probability, every conversation you'll have next week, every car that will drive by your house tomorrow, every piece of news you'll read, you would be utterly paralyzed.
You couldn't function.
You couldn't function in the present moment. You couldn't drive a car or cook dinner or have a simple conversation. It would be pure chaos.
So the discarded portions, that's just noise to our conscious minds.
It's noise to the conscious ego, yes. But the subconscious, and by extension, the pendulum knows it's there. It sees the whole signal.
And Seth also talks about the problem of language, doesn't he? He says the words they were using in their predictions were so literal, they just failed to convey the generalized picture of the future event.
Right. And this is the disconnect. If you predict the word crash, your conscious mind immediately looks for a car accident.
Of course.
But maybe your computer crashed, or maybe you felt a crashing wave of fatigue, or maybe you heard a plate crash in the kitchen. To the subconscious, the energetic signature of sudden violent failure is the same. But the literal specific word crash is just too narrow.
Seth says the words that you use are so literal that they cannot convey the whole picture sufficiently.
It's like trying to describe a symphony using only emojis. You're going to lose all the nuance. The universe speaks in feelings and patterns and energies. We speak in these very limited, clunky words.
It really makes you wonder how much we know about the future right now in this moment, but we just filter it out as background noise, as meaningless data.
Seth implies we are constantly navigating the future with this information. We just call it intuition or a gut feeling or even just luck.
Okay, let's lighten the mood a little bit for part 6, the agent's fee and future outlook. Because Seth isn't all doom and gloom and coughing fits and cosmic fire hoses.
No, he's actually quite optimistic about the book when you get down to it.
He gives a guarantee. He says the book will be successful both financially and in terms of reputation.
And he makes a very, very specific prediction about it. He says, a paperback edition will indeed appear.
Which, spoiler alert, for anyone living in 2026, definitely happened. The Seth books have sold millions and millions of copies, and they are almost all in paperback.
So he nailed that one.
Yeah.
Completely.
But the best part, the absolute best part of this entire session is the joke.
It's such a classic Seth moment. It's what makes the material so approachable.
It is. He's been giving all this legal advice, career coaching, productivity tips. He's been acting like a manager. And then he just drops this line, and if Ruburt does not watch out, then I will charge him 10% as his agent.
It's fantastic. You can almost hear the smirk in his voice.
The idea of a spirit guide demanding a commission check. I mean, I accept payment in ectoplasm or good vibes only.
It just shows his personality. He's not this stiff, holy, distant figure. He's a friend. He's cracking a joke to break the tension because he knows Jane and Rob are so stressed out about this whole thing.
It's incredibly disarming. It reminds them not to take it all too seriously. It's just a book contract in the grand scheme of things.
And he closes the session with some gentle, almost paternal advice. He tells Jane that her dream records and her predictions will improve now that the contract stress is finally resolved.
And he recommends sunbathing. I love this part. For short periods, sunbathing will be restful for him.
Vitamin D and relaxation. The doctor is in.
So let's try to wrap this up. We've gone from contract law to river walks to sunbathing instructions all in one session.
It's a remarkably holistic approach to life, isn't it?
It really is. If we look at the outro here, what is the big takeaway? We have Seth acting as a lawyer, a doctor, and a creative coach all at the same time.
I think the main takeaway is the integration of the practical and the magical. Seth doesn't tell them to ignore the real world. He doesn't say money doesn't matter.
No, he's very concerned with the money.
He is. He tells them how to navigate the real world using spiritual principles. He says, yes, look at the contract. Yes, worry about the money. But handle it with strategy and patience, and most of all, trust in your own creative power.
It's about balance. You can use a pendulum to decide on a business deal, but you also need to understand the psychology of the person you're dealing with.
Exactly. It's not one or the other. It's not spirit versus matter. It's both working together.
And for anyone listening who finds this as fascinating as we do and wants to dive deeper into this wild world, we do have a call to action for you.
You absolutely need to study the Seth Material books. This was just a tiny slice of one session, session 156. There are literally thousands of pages of this stuff.
And you can find them at the New Awareness Network website and bookstore. That's sethcenter.com/the early sessions.
Go check it out. Support the publishers who work so hard to keep this material alive and available.
Now, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. We talked about Seth's comment on clairvoyance.
Clairvoyant material comes constantly.
If Seth is right, if we are constantly being bombarded with knowledge of the future, what information are you ignoring right now because your conscious mind is too focused on the contract clauses of your daily life?
That's the question, isn't it?
What signals are you filtering out because you're too busy worrying about the little things? Are you missing the big picture, the whole symphony, because you're obsessing over the fine print?
Something to mull over, for sure.
Indeed. Go trust your pendulum, take a walk by the river, and we'll catch you in the next deep dive.
See you then.
Bye for now.